What's up, everybody? How's everybody doing today?
Sorry, I saw it was 2:30.
Good, good.
Did I get it wrong?
I am not nervous at all.
I cut off Ashley.
All right, so welcome to my talk, React Animation Made Easy. Introduce myself, my name is Will. I'm a developer advocate at Auth0. I'm also an egghead instructor, a technical writer, and a champion of community. I'm a whole lot of other things, but those are the things that I do in the realm of our tech community here. So I want to start this talk talking about basketball. Basketball, it used to be played like this. Okay, that's not working. Hold on. Okay, so basketball used to be played like this. Now, the outcome of the game back then is the same as the outcome it is today. The ball went in the hoop, people scored points, the team with the most points won the game, people went on to win championships, fans cheered, everyone was happy. Now, basketball is played like this. Now, it's faster, it's more up-tempo, and it's a lot more exciting for the fans that are watching the game. Because the way that it was played the old way, people thought that that was the game of basketball. In the early 80s, a small group of players and coaches wanted to introduce a faster, more up-tempo, more exciting way to play the game. A lot of the veteran players wasn't happy with that. They didn't want to change the way that they played the game. They have spent years perfecting their craft, becoming the best at what they do, and they didn't want to make changes because what they were doing was working for them, a real broke, don't fix it type of mentality. One thing that I think that wasn't considered was the fans. How did the fans feel? Fans watch basketball for entertainment. So what if they had a long day at work, dealing with traffic, cooking dinner, then they sat down to watch the game? Wouldn't it be great to give them a thrilling experience, an exciting experience, one that makes them feel better, the one that lifts their moods, the one that makes them jump out of their seat? Now, I'm sure that any basketball player would agree that that's a great goal to have, but change is hard. Sometimes when you need to make a change, you need something that makes that change easier, something that takes care of the hard parts of creating a new habit to be able to replace it, or I'm sorry, the hard parts of making a new habit and replace it with the ones from the old habit. So for the NBA, that was Magic Johnson. He introduced a fast-paced, high-intensity style of play that they called Showtime back then. His teammates only had to change a few things to be able to play this new style of play. It wasn't a complete paradigm shift. They still had to do the same things of putting the ball in the hoop, but Magic Johnson made it easier because he had the flashy passes. He ran up and down the court a lot faster. He made it easier for his teammates to get better. 95% of websites today feel like 1960s basketball. They're stiff, they're static, not a lot of motion or emotion. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that websites today are bad or that they're wrong or that they're broken. They do exactly what our users need them to do. They hold data, they adjust to different screen sizes, and users are able to use them just fine. But I feel like something is missing. Animation a lot of times gets discarded as something that's decorative or flashy, or only should be used on certain types of websites. But that's not the case at all. Animation can improve the user experience without being flashy. Every decision that your user makes uses cognitive resources. According to Kathy Sierra, cognitive resources are finite. So every time a user has to make a connection, that's using valuable resources. When they hover on part of your application and they wonder, can I click on this? That uses a little bit of brain power. When a user clicks a drop-down menu and the options just pop onto the screen, your brain in the background makes those connections of the motion that's missing when that action actually takes place. This may sound like small inconveniences or nothing to really take serious, but think about your users. When they're making decisions at work all day, they've cooked dinner, they had bad time with the kids, their brain is fried. And then they come to use your website either to entertain themselves, do something fun, or to do something important like pay bills. They have a bad experience, and they can't even tell you why. That's because their cognitive resources are depleted, and it just makes it harder to navigate. A few animations added to your site could save those precious resources and improve their experience. Animations can also add context. For example, having a password field shake when the user enters the wrong password, or having a button hover or glow or whatever, like pulsate or glow whenever someone hovers on it, so they know that this is the next thing you want them to do and how to continue on their journey. But animation is hard. You're already managing state, building UIs, digging through bottomless docs, sometimes deciphering cryptic error messages. Then taking the time to learn all the animation concepts like easing, damping, keyframes, stiffness, and more, just to make a hover animation on a button, it doesn't seem like a good use of time. And because of that, animations get thrown to the back burner because they don't seem important and because websites still work. So, in order to improve that experience for our users, which is the reasons why we're building applications, there needs to be something that can ease the transition to make more interactive applications without developers having to completely change how they develop apps. Developers need a Magic Johnson. Framer Motion is Magic Johnson. Framer Motion is a declarative animation library built for React applications. I like it because it has simple syntax using React concepts that you're already familiar with and that you write every day. It also has default animations in place, so you don't have to worry about getting every single little detail of an animation perfect. All you have to do is tell Framer Motion what you want the animation to look like, and Framer Motion will handle the rest. So next I'm going to show some small snippets of code and kind of go over some of the ways that Framer Motion makes all of this a whole lot easier. So once Framer Motion is downloaded and installed, you import it into your application. The first thing you want to do is create a motion component. To create a motion component, you take any HTML element or SVG tag and add motion dot to the front of it on the opening and closing tag. Once you have a motion component, you have access to all of the props that Framer Motion gives you. So the first most important prop is the animate prop. The animate prop tells your application or tells Framer Motion how you want the animation to end up. So the final state of the animation. So in this example, I create the animate prop, I pass in an object with a property that is what I want to animate. So this is scale, this will change the size, and then the value is 2. So I pass in that object with a scale of 2, and when the application loads, this element will animate to twice its size. Now keep in mind, I really want you to pay attention here. All that you had to do was write scale 2. You didn't have to say how long it's going to take. You didn't have to say what type of animation you're using. You didn't have to do any of that to make the animation look good. You put in animate scale 2, Framer Motion does it for you. And it'll look good, and you don't have to worry about any of those details. So you have what the animation wants to look like at the end. You can use the initial prop to talk about how you want it to look at the beginning. So with the initial prop, this is the prop that tells you how you want the animation to start, what state you want it to be in when your application loads. So here I have an object passed into initial at scale 0. So when the application first loads, it'll be 0. So more than likely it'll be invisible, and then when it animates and loads, it'll be a scale of twice its size. Now, framer motion will handle the in-between the initial and the animate. You just tell framer motion where you want it to start and where you want it to end. The details are handled by framer motion. But once you start animating more things and wanting to dive deeper into different things that you can customize animations, you're probably going to want to customize how it moves in between initial and animate. In order to do that, you use the transition prop. So the transition props allows you to change the timing, allows you to change the type of animation, change the speed, all type of things that you can really dive deep into to customize your animation. But that's what the transition prop allows you to do. For this transition prop, I set the duration to 0. So now you have initial, you have animate, you have transition. As you see, we're starting to add a lot of props. If you dive even deeper into animations and customizing, you can start to see that, okay, maybe this component is getting really, really large. So in order to handle that, framer motion has variants. So variants are objects that you can use to create animations. So if you look at the top, you can see the div variant. I can name the property hidden, and the opacity of that is 0. The visible property is 1, or the opacity of that is 1. So whenever I name something hidden, it'll animate to that property, and invisible the same way. So when I can go down to my component, I have the variance prop, and I added I passed it div variance. So now it knows what variant I'm referring to. And also, you can name variants whatever you want. You don't have to put variant in the title. I usually don't, so I just did that for the example, but you can name them whatever you want. And then when I wanted to say the initial and the animate state of the animation, I named it hidden, and I named it visible. And animation can get really complex. You can change size, you can rotate them, you can add hover animations, you can change the transition. There's a lot that you can do. These variants can get very, very big, and the only thing you can do to reference them is use hidden or visible or whatever names you give them. Also, it makes it good when you're working on a team and everyone's not really into animation. You can just say, hey, set it to hidden or set it to visible. They may not know all the stuff you did to make that happen, but they probably know what hidden or visible means or whatever other name you may give. Another thing is gestures. Motion components have access to event listeners outside of the normal ones that you get with React. Framer motion can recognize hovers, taps, which is button presses, or just presses on an element in general. It can recognize pans, it can recognize drags, and when you enter and exit the viewport, you don't have to use the React intersection observer or anything like that. You can just use a prop for it. That's really, really cool to me. And in this example, we have while hover. So while I'm hovering on the element, I want it to scale 1.2 times its size. And then while tap, so when I'm pressing on it, I want it to shrink about 1 or 0.9 times its size. And again, just like with the animate and initial prop, framer motion handles how these look. That is not something you have to worry about. You just tell framer motion what that you want it to do. Probably my favorite part of framer motion, I have a lot of favorite parts, but this is one of them that's really, really good, is animate presence. Animate presence allows you to animate elements while they leave the DOM or the React tree. So if you have a list of items, some emails, whatever, and you want to remove them, when you click that, it'll actually do the animation for you, because normally that's not something that that's built into React that has a lifecycle method that tells you when it's leaving the DOM or the React tree. So framer motion has this built in, so you're able to create those type of actions. So in order to use animate presence, you wrap the element that you want to animate that's leaving the DOM with the animate presence. Then you have to make sure that it has an exit prop. So any children of the animate presence component that has an exit prop, then you pass it in the object that you want to animate. So this opacity 0. So when this element is removed, it will be invisible because the opacity is 0. and that's all you would need to type to be able to get an entire element removed from the React tree and animate it. And you can also do what is called like layout animation. So if it's in a list, you can remove that, and then Framer Motion will automatically remove any other items in that list. So you might be asking, what can Framer Motion do that pure CSS can't? That's a great question, and the creator of Framer Motion answered that question on Twitter. So it can do layout animations, springs. It can make elements draggable. You can easily create staggered animations. You can do individual transforms, exit animations. You can link values using the use transform hook. Press and hover combinations are handled properly. CSS style transforms, origin for SVGs. You can really, really easily draw SVG paths, and you can animate CSS vars across browsers. So a lot of benefits that you get from using Framer Motion over just regular CSS or regular CSS. So if you want to learn more about Framer Motion, I do have a course on Egghead called Animate React Apps with Framer Motion. I go into all these features, and I go to a lot more as well. And I think that Framer Motion is a great way to add motion and interactivity to your applications and improve your user's experience without you yourself being an animation expert. The creator of the library, Matt Perry, has done a great job handling the intricacies and ins and outs, combining all the proper animation principles that we've learned over time so you can continue to make great applications for your users. Thank everybody for listening to my talk. If you have any questions, please talk to me. I love talking animation. And you can follow me on Twitter at WillJohnsonIO. Enjoy Miami, people.
Thank you so much, Will.